Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and black. Mean machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Than the drunk obnoxious Georgia band. Than drunk obnoxious Georgia band. Go, go! Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John, Mike, and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, on Sundays, live on Millions and as a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Tonight, we are talking about the most impactful games that were played this weekend since Georgia had a bye week. But before we get to that, how y'all been? What are you drinking?
I've been good. I'll go first, as I don't have nearly as much to say as you guys do. No, I've been well. Great weekend overall. Again, I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but just busy with like schoolwork and football and stuff like that. The Lions are a fucking wagon, so shout out me. But I actually am drinking today. I got a couple PBRs sitting here for the duration. So how about you, Caleb?
I'm good. I got a McAllister's sweet tea because that's where we just came back from. It's about the only thing I like from McAllister's, but it is the best tea on the planet.
Same.
Yeah, I've been good. We played a wedding yesterday, my wife and I, and actually the wedding officiant was Nick Chubb.
No kidding.
What?
Not that Nick Chubb, but a different guy named Nick Chubb.
Oh.
No,
a white guy.
no.
But I did still get his autograph. But also, I'm sure I speak for both of you when I can say that this week in particular, the state of Florida and everybody from there can fornicate themselves with one of those palm trees they love so much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, speaking of the state of Florida, that's where I spent my entire weekend. Part of which in Gainesville, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, so y'all know I love my wife to death. She doesn't read maps very well or like know distance or geography. So some of our good friends, Mike has met them, Marcus and Kendra used to live in Savannah. They now live in Gainesville. They're having a baby. Congratulations. So happy for them. They had a baby shower this weekend. So the baby shower was about 3.5 hours from my house. My wife's like, oh, Gainesville, that's close to Orlando. We'll go stay with our friends that live there and then go to the baby shower.
Yeah, it's like 90 minutes, isn't it?
2 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh, God.
So we drove Savannah, Orlando, Gainesville, Orlando, Savannah between Friday night and about 15 minutes ago. If there's one good thing out of the trip, we went to Buc-ee's. That's where I had lunch today. Had one of the double XL brisket sandwiches and some beaver chips. So it's never a bad thing. But I'm also driving past that exact same Buc-ee's on Friday of this week to go to Orlando all of next week for vacation. So I much rather would have had that at any point then.
You making a stop in Jacksonville next Saturday?
We will actually already be in Orlando.
Oh, okay.
This is one of those vacations that I'm not paying for it, so I didn't really get a say in planning it. But as someone else is paying for me, I'm not going to complain.
Fair enough.
We had Jacksonville like on kind of in the back of our minds of trying to do that, but then my oldest son is he's trying to get into Savannah Arts, so like he has to do like some tryout type stuff, but he's doing someone with the Savannah Philharmonic next Saturday, right before the actual game. So I will not be going down to the cocktail party this year.
I will actually be on rides at Universal during the game.
Okay.
So,
well, I hope you got your phone out. I want to see, as you're going through the big loops of the Hulk, the picture that comes out of just you staring at your phone.
No, so I'm currently, I would appreciate everybody's input on this. I have two trains of thought as far as this goes. Either be absolutely glued to my phone and still miss a good bit of the game between lines and walking around and rides and all that kind of stuff. Or just completely turn my phone off until we get in the car to go back to the condo, and then I can start watching the game.
That might be the better way to do it. I will add, though, there might be like a Hard Rock Cafe or something. There's all kinds of restaurants in that area between the two parks. Most of them are probably going to have TVs showing the game. If you could time it, you could probably catch most of the second half.
So normally what we do is we eat at the, relatively speaking, cheaper restaurants inside the park, and we just take the Harry Potter train.
That's fair.
So once we go through one gate, we normally don't go out the other one until we're leaving for the day.
Gotcha. I hadn't been over there in years. Last time I went there, the Harry Potter section had like 3 things in it.
It's awesome now, man. You got to go back. Like
I do need to go back. I like it so much better than that other park in Orlando, so I need to get back over there.
Yeah, we're pretty excited, but I'll be down there the whole next week. We're trying to meet up with Connor from Saturday Down South. Finally, get a chance to meet his baby next week.
Oh yeah.
And then talk about how he was incorrect trying to talk me into trusting Mike Norvell.
Yeah, no one should ever do that.
He poo-pooed us so hard when we were talking about it. It's like, oh well, you guys are just tainted by the results of the Orange Bowl.
No, we correctly read and understood the culture of that program based on their response to the Orange Bowl.
Correct.
Yeah, it's one of those things like if somebody said, "Hey, that lettuce farm has E. coli," you blame the farmer, right?
Yeah, you do.
Like it's not
rocket science.
It's not like, oh well, this batch that's going out has got the problems, but the stuff growing right next to it's completely fine. Like, no, it's the damn farmer's fault.
Mm.
That was a very much on the spot thing, so it didn't make sense. Sue me later. Actually,
it was incredible.
Those rodents that destroyed the farm, they didn't destroy the actual farm. They just destroyed the E. coli ridden stuff that was there.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the game. Just to be fully transparent with y'all, I was driving for most of the day yesterday. As I said, I had about 6 hours in the car yesterday alone. So I didn't get to watch all of these games, but I watched a good bit of a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start right off the top with LSU at Texas A&M. A&M were 2.5-point favorites going into the game, over under 54.5. A&M won this game 38-23, but LSU was up 17-7 at one point. I will say I looked way too much into the defense of both of these teams and bet the under about an hour before kickoff.
Never do that in this game ever.
I was just
the 74-72 game.
Right.
It is, but at the same time, it's like, oh, dude, A&M cannot pass the ball. LSU can't stop the pass, but LSU beats the hell out of the quarterback. Too easy. I'm thinking,
in fairness, the score at halftime made the under look pretty good.
Yeah. And even most of the way into the third quarter, it was like 28-17. I was like, oh, the under's still safe. We'll be fine. LSU hasn't scored. And then everyone scored. But,
Yeah.
I did have a pretty good day betting yesterday, so I'm not going to complain about this one. But biggest question we have after this game. One, is LSU bad?
Yes.
Yeah, I would lean that way. Yeah.
And
they're a very flawed team.
What was their biggest strength coming into the season was their offensive line, right? Like they were like, oh yeah, you got a new quarterback, but you have the best offensive line in the SEC. And A&M proved that very much wrong.
Yeah. It reminded me very much of the way that Georgia proved that wrong about Texas's offensive line.
Yes.
We'll get to Texas's offensive line.
Oh, we sure will.
Because that was rough. But no, so in this game, Texas A&M only had 2 real sacks, but they had 6 tackles for loss. So they were just dominating that offensive line for most of the day. LSU ended the day with 24 rushing yards.
Mm.
And there were multiple times Garrett Nussmeier was getting up off the turf, whether it was a hit after he threw the ball or a sack or pressure or whatever it was, that are meme-worthy pictures.
Mm-hmm.
The one specifically where his chin straps over his mouth and he's holding his thing and he looks like he's seeing ghosts, like that is, it's meme-worthy.
It is.
I will say LSU's rushing defense surprised me in this game by the way that they didn't really hold up against the run. I mean, they allowed 242 rushing yards. I mean, it was just a bad day for LSU.
Even in the first half, when A&M only scored 7, like when they were moving the ball on the ground and getting first downs basically every time they put the ball on the ground.
Mm.
A little bit on the A&M side of it now. Connor Wegman's not starting anymore, right?
He can't be. There's no way.
No.
That team looked radically different with Marcel Reed being like knowing what to actually do and being comfortable back there, because that team is radically different with him in every facet. I mean, they 242 yards in the ground, and he didn't put up a ton of yards himself necessarily. I mean, he did have 3 rushing touchdowns, but Marcel Reed is what Jalen Milroe wants to be.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he was 2 for 2 passing with what, like
70
yards?
Yeah.
Something insane, being 2 for 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just, I will say, we were still like, oh, Mizzou's good. They just haven't shown it yet during that A&M Mizzou game. And then Connor Wegman did what he did, and we were like, okay,
maybe there's something to this guy.
Yeah, like we finally see what the coaches see. And then, between those 2 games yesterday, we were like, no,
never mind.
Mizzou's just really
Just bad. Yeah.
Could you imagine if A&M actually kept some of the guys that transferred out, like Evan Stewart and people like that? Like, this team would be
loaded,
unbeatable, man.
Well, just think, they lost Walter Nolan on the defensive line, and they're still this good.
Yeah.
So Jimbo obviously deserved to be fired, but that is like gross malpractice what he did, because this is largely the same roster minus a few huge pieces, and look at them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Jimbo Fisher coached A&M would not be undefeated in conference play at this point in the season. They would have lost one of those games that they shouldn't have.
Did you see what Elko said after the game? More or less like, God, what?
I don't remember the exact words, but it seemed people are arguing over whether it was a shot at Jimbo Fisher or a shot at Brian Kelly. It was 100% a shot at Jimbo.
Yeah, it's about talking. What do you say? We don't have a CEO in charge anymore. Somebody that's talking fast and something.
Yeah. Yes.
We don't have a politician talking fast.
Yeah. No, that's 100% at Jimbo, and hit the nail on the head. To be completely honest.
Yeah.
I mean, every game A&M wins this year is less money Jimbo will make if he gets back into coaching.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I was about to say, we got our tiebreaker guru over here with some notes.
Yeah. Since I'm the SEC championship race analyst over here, apparently at Nothing Finer Podcast. And I'm going to amend my notes a little bit, actually, because there was something I missed. But essentially, the SEC title race is now, if everything else holds up like we expect, going to come down to 3 games. And that is going to be LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. And really, for most of these scenarios, because of the relationship both Georgia and Tennessee have with LSU in terms of the tiebreakers, they're almost interchangeable in all these scenarios, except one. So if Bama beats LSU, actually things are really straightforward. Bama beats LSU, the SEC championship game will be the winner of Georgia, Tennessee against the winner of Texas A&M, assuming nothing crazy happens upset-wise in the middle. Texas A&M does play South Carolina, so that would complicate things a little bit, or simplify them, actually, in that regard, because then we don't have to worry about as many tiebreakers later. But if LSU beats Alabama, then stuff gets really complicated because there's a couple of scenarios, one of which ends in a 4-way tie. There's a 3-way tie scenario and a 4-way tie scenario, depending on who wins Texas A&M. Almost doesn't matter the winner of Georgia, Tennessee, if one of those is in there. And so you're basically looking at either LSU and Texas A&M in a rematch, or Georgia, Texas in a rematch, or LSU, Texas in the SEC championship game.
Ew.
Depending on how those games go, or Georgia, Texas A&M, depending on how some of those games go.
That's the one I want. I want that.
Honestly, that is the one I want too. Wouldn't hate a Georgia LSU either.
No.
Tennessee in any of those games just makes me want to vomit, to be honest with you. But that's also just because I don't really like their fan base, and they wouldn't stop talking if they beat us. So hopefully they don't.
Right.
But the good news to me, if you're an LSU fan, at least the good news is you still kind of control your own destiny on that. And the good news for Georgia fans is that right now LSU does not look like a team that could beat Alabama. I'm honestly not even sure they'll beat Vanderbilt.
The good news for Georgia fans is LSU controls their own destiny. Specifically, Brian Kelly does.
Exactly. So, as a Georgia fan, you got to feel decent about your chances of getting in there. Right now, we sit at second place in the SEC, just straight up, but it's because we've played more games than most of the SEC in conference. So we're half a game ahead of all these 3-1 teams. But like it usually does, things will sort themselves out on the field. Eventually, somebody will lose something they shouldn't, and the race will get a lot clearer.
So how many tiebreakers down does it go for the higher ranked team to win out that tiebreaker?
I don't think it ever actually gets to that point where rankings decide it. It starts with head-to-head, and then you get record against common opponents. And then you get record, instead of doing it based on the ranking of the teams themselves, you get, if they have a common opponent, you get the highest ranked common opponent and get their record against them. And then after that, you get cumulative conference winning percentage of all opponents. So like basically a strength of record type thing. You calculate the winning percentage of all the conference opponents. And then after that, it's all based on like relative scoring margins. And then if it goes through all of that, then it's just a random draw.
You mean the random draw?
So
it never gets to a point where it's just which team is ranked higher. They've taken it out of the playoff committee's hands entirely, which I honestly think is pretty wise.
I would agree with that. But what you're telling me is Kirby now has even more reason to just step on everyone's throats. Like
that is true, and even more reason to say I don't care what we're ranked at this point.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. Yeah. Scoring margin is going to be a big deal. Well, it may not even get to that tiebreaker, but if it does, we got to step on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next game up, Texas were 18.5-point favorites at Vandy, over under 52.5. And this was a phenomenal game. It really was. There were 4 times in the 30 minutes sporadically I watched this game that I was like, oh, Vandy's done, and they come back. And it was like, oh, never mind. They're already coming back.
Yeah.
Vandy's the real deal this year. And I know I say it what seems like every week. Diego Pavia is that dude. Like, you cannot... He limped off the field, didn't even go to the locker room for a knee brace, and came back out and was running around the field with a knee brace on.
Yeah. And, it just shows you where Vanderbilt is now. How many times in the last, forever that Vanderbilt has been Vanderbilt? Would we have just, seen the score start the way it is, the halftime score would go the way it does, and we'd be like, okay, they're going to lose this game by 40 now, and they'll just lay down in the second half because that's just Vandy being Vandy. The fact that they hung around and fought in the second half and had a chance to win at the end of this game, like, it doesn't, to me, I think we're all taking kind of the Vanderbilt angle on this. It says a lot more about them than it does about Texas to me. Like when Clark Lee started talking when he first took the job about how he really wanted to build Vanderbilt into a championship program, I think most of us kind of laughed and thought he was just blowing smoke. But obviously he's very serious about it, and his guys are playing for it. And I love that for Vanderbilt, and I love that for all of their alumni, because we haven't seen this Vanderbilt yet. as long as at least I've been watching football. Probably not since, pre-World War II era. And it's really exciting for the SEC. It's good for the SEC. It's good for college football.
And in Vandy, it was kind of a sloppy game. There was 5 total turnovers. Vandy turned it over 3 times. I think Diego had 2 picks himself, and then there was a lost fumble in there. Quinn Ewers wasn't perfect either. He had 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. But God, man, if Vanderbilt could have played a little bit, like just had maybe 1 less turnover, this could have been a different story, and they could have beat both Texas and Bama.
Or based on the Georgia performance, they could have gotten 1 or 2 more turnovers from Texas.
Yeah, easily.
Sure. So I will say, this game in particular should concern Texas fans for one very specific reason. They now have confirmed that they do not necessarily play great against teams that with true dual threat quarterbacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Would you like to know who the rest of their opponents are? You don't have it in front of you.
I've got one of them in mind. Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Well, they play Florida. They play
DJ
Florida.
Lagway, Florida, I believe,
yes.
right?
Yeah, DJ Lagway, Florida, the week after Florida plays Georgia. And then they play at Arkansas the day that Georgia plays Tennessee.
Oof.
And then it's Kentucky at Texas. Kentucky, not in Kentucky, is an entirely different team. And then they finish the season at College Station, hopefully with Marcel Reed. So each one of their opponents for the rest of the season has a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah, and all of them, you could argue Kentucky isn't a losable game for them the way they've been playing, but, as Georgia, all of those are, I'm not saying they'll lose all of those games, but they're all losable games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that's the performance your defense is putting up against Vanderbilt, which I'm not going to, at this point in the season, we're all big Vanderbilt fans.
Yeah.
We love watching them play football. But going into the game yesterday, Vanderbilt was 14th in the SEC in sacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also known as third from last. Vanderbilt had 4 sacks against Texas.
Yikes.
So are you telling me
this vaunted offensive line of Texas?
Right.
Yeah.
So between a dual threat quarterback and the offensive line of Texas giving up 4 sacks to Vanderbilt, are you telling me Arkansas and A&M cannot do the same thing Vanderbilt did, but at a higher level?
Dude, Arkansas's offense is legit. Like, I think 3 or 4 games with over 600 yards. I mean,
yeah.
Texas got the work cut out for them the rest of the year. It's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to just have 1 loss going in the A&M game.
What is it with Vanderbilt this year and taking teams Georgia has exposed and just laying every weakness of theirs out on the table for everyone else to see? Like,
yeah. And specifically when it comes to the Texas offensive line, it was mentioned last week on the broadcast. I want to say we talked about it a little bit too. Their left tackle, Kelvin Banks, went from projected top half of the first round to, with the last 2 games he has played, there's rumors he's coming back.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
Jalen Walker did to him against Texas, or did in the Georgia game, essentially what Jalen Carter did to Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
But, it's an offensive lineman, and you did it repeatedly throughout the whole game.
Yeah, no, we didn't have a Simba moment either, which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, would have been nice, but, Jalen Walker likes throwing people on the ground too much.
All right, y'all ready to move on to, we got a bunch of just random game notes here from other games throughout the day. Mike, I believe you wrote about this first game we're talking about, so you can go ahead and take it from here.
Yeah. So, number 1, Oregon. I mean, it wasn't even a contest. They killed number 20 Illinois 38-9 out in Eugene. The game itself really isn't that important. The Husky Fan podcast, that's a Washington podcast that we had talked to prior to the Sugar Bowl with Washington and Texas. They periodically reach out to me just kind of to hate on Sark and stuff like that, and just like get ideas, just kind of what we're seeing down here, because they're big football fans, obviously. And he brought up a pretty interesting stat because he's an Oregon hater. He doesn't believe in Dan Lanning, which is fair because that was their arguably their biggest rival. But
they did kind of own him, so fair.
Yeah, they did. So they revel in Oregon's misery when they have it. But he brought up that Oregon, two of Oregon's 4 Big Ten road games are against the 16th and 18th worst teams in the conference, or well, I guess best teams. Second to last, third to last were teams in the conference, whatever. I don't know how I'm trying to say that, but bad teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their other road games are against the 5th and 8th best teams in the Big Ten. So arguably, of like the real legitimate contenders or quote unquote elite teams in college football this year, they probably have the easiest pathway to the playoff, and kind of going forward until they play in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, and
they're not really gonna have a test.
Yeah, and Illinois was technically a ranked team, but as I told all of you on Thursday, and I hate to say I told you so, Illinois is fraudulent, and their schedule to this point has been fraudulent, and so
yeah, no, you convinced me mid pod to change my pick on this game.
Yeah, well, your pick probably would have been similar if you had remembered that Illinois and Indiana are different universities, but
yeah, too many eyes.
Yeah, all those Midwest I states, who cares? What am I? I'm a Democrat politician now. Who cares about those states over there?
Well, isn't it like Illinois, like when they go alphabetical order in the Big Ten, isn't like Illinois like the first team that comes up, like the letter I?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think still actually, even with the additional teams, yeah, you're right.
That's stupid. They're supposed to be
what a silly conference the Big 18 is. What a silly conference.
Right. Yeah, but no, I mean Oregon's not really going to face any kind of legitimate test. Chest, who I was talking about, I mean he's on the dog train here, thinking that Georgia's the only one that could beat Oregon, which I can get on board with.
Fair.
Yeah.
Is Oregon the Texas of the Big Ten this year? They got kind of a really favorable schedule. The one game against kind of the big bad in their conference they got at home.
Mm-hmm. And they just squeaked that one out. If
which is better than Texas did, but
right. If Will Howard understood how time worked and stuff, then Ohio State could have won that game.
The man slid.
Okay.
No time left.
Two things about that. Did Will Howard mess up? Yes. But also, Ryan Day had a timeout left, and when he slid, there was 1 second.
He tried to call the timeout.
Yeah. If he had been paying attention, he could have probably gotten that.
He was already complaining.
And that's it. Yeah, in that situation, you're staying close to an official all the time.
Yeah.
I do got to throw out there like one thing too. So like as much as we clown on Will Howard, Kyle McCord finally fell off like completely. The wheels fell off.
Yeah, they did.
He had 3 pick sixes. He had I think 5 total interceptions against Pitt.
That's if it were possible to quit mid-game like college football 25, that would have been one of those your opponent's connection has been lost moments. Probably after the second pick six.
Yeah.
Well, Texas tried to do that at Georgia and cut their communication on the headsets. And...
That's true. As soon as they said that Texas had to they had to remove their headsets. Oh nope, it works. Yep. Just kidding. Yeah.
Crazy. Maybe if we throw trash on the field, the game will end.
Yeah.
That's one of those. All right, if you want to, we'll beat you medieval. That's okay. That's fine. Analog ass whooping is what you just signed up for. All right, next game. Number 3, Penn State at Wisconsin. Beat Wisconsin 28-13. So this one, my note on this is after Drew Aller went down, the entire team played significantly better.
Surprise.
Bo Pribula, I'm going to go with that.
Isn't that like a knee bone?
That's
what Aiden Hutchinson. That's what Aiden Hutchinson had exploded a few weeks ago.
So we need to transplant Penn State's backup quarterback into Aiden Hutchinson's leg.
He's probably the same size.
But the defense stepped up after Aller went down. The offense looked significantly better. With the number that Pribula wears being number 9 and having dark hair, it was like, did Trace McSorley grow a foot and get some eligibility? Like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so y'all had some notes about this game too.
Yeah, I had just said that. I mean, Penn State, they were down 10-7 at the half, and I mean, really, they were bailed out with just like a piss poor throw that Wisconsin threw and turned into a pick six, turning into points. They kind of never looked back from there. But like Penn State goes to Ohio. I'm sorry, Ohio State goes to Penn State next week, and for the first time, really since
2016.
maybe, yeah, I was gonna say 2016. I feel confident that James Franklin can beat alleged elite team from the Big Ten.
Yeah,
and it's not so much Penn State as it is Ohio State, and I think they're a flawed team. But
yeah,
it's a 3-versus-4 matchup in Happy Valley, and of course it's gonna be a whiteout at noon.
yeah. Big nooner whiteout. That's just what everybody wanted.
I'm glad to finally see other people on social media losing their shit at Fox for ruining college football.
Yes.
Because if it was that night, it'd be no question that Penn State would win this game, without a doubt.
If it were at night, more people would watch. Because,
right.
Are there other good games on at night? 100%. But 3-versus-4 with a whiteout at Penn State, everyone that gives a shit across the country is at least on Multiview.
Yeah,
right.
Everyone's watching it. And if that weren't bad enough from Fox putting it on noon, they got those awful score bugs too.
You know what? I used to not like it. I don't mind it so much anymore.
So they've made it less cartoony, I will say. They don't have textures in the color anymore. And the logos, they made them like 20% smaller.
Yeah.
So they don't cover up players that are on the near sideline anymore. Like it's more compact. There's not textures in the color. They've made it better. It still does remind me of like NFL street games.
Yeah. I was gonna say like an NCAA football game like on the Wii or something.
Yeah, the old NCAA All Play, which I had because that was the only console I had.
Mm-hmm.
But also just another tangent. Have either of you ever watched a football game on the CW?
I did this weekend. I started to this weekend. It was awful.
I was gonna say my brother-in-law has the YouTube TV quadrant screens. And that was the first time I'd ever seen it. And gosh, SD football sucks. But then again, so does ACC football that has the contract with them. So.
You know what? They deserve it. They really do.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Ole Miss having to play Wake on that.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but the guy that got fired, the infamous Castellanos home run mid-firing.
I'm never going to put this headset on again. He did, though.
Is the main commentary guy for the CW.
Let's go.
I cannot wait until the CW gets a Boston College game and he has to say Castellanos 100 times. I cannot wait because he's going yard a few times in that game.
Yes, in the middle of something crazy.
This got to be soon if it hasn't happened already.
I hope so.
Some political figure is going to get assassinated in the middle of him talking about that. Just going to go to that.
And there's a deep ball from Castellanos.
And he would instinctively say Castellanos instead of Castellanos, like the guy says his name is pronounced. It would it would be like, oh, what is it? Winter Soldier from it would be like he started reading in Russian and he's just like, and a deep fly ball by Castellanos. Touchdown, Castellanos. All right.
Speaking of embarrassing moments.
Yeah. Number 15, Alabama shut out 21 Mizzou in Tuscaloosa, 34-0. Moment of silence for Mizzou. Just.
They is dead.
Boy, their playoff hopes were fun. For what we got of them last year. And for a few weeks this year, they were fun.
Mm-hmm.
But turns out Brady Cook is not the $1 million man. He did not come back smarter, better, faster, or stronger.
And UMass isn't walking through that door.
Yeah.
Now, it would have been the ultimate thing if they'd have brought a casket out. WWE style to the sideline.
Just threw him in there.
But instead of the Undertaker popping up, it's a double casket, and we get Cody Schrader and Brady Cook.
Oh, the stadium would explode if it was in Como.
I think it still might have in Tuscaloosa because they're convinced the WWE is real life.
It's real to me, damn it.
But yeah, I didn't get to watch most of this game, so if you guys have something to say about it, I'll let you guys go off.
I watched a little bit of it, but I just got sad. So I don't really have anything to say.
You mentioned this before, and I wanted to make sure we get put it in there. Bama did put their first string defense back in there to try to preserve the shutout, which is
Kirby would
kind of
never.
weird. Yeah,
Kirby could have against Tennessee Tech this year and did not.
He also could have against Kentucky.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is if, like, Kalen DeBoer's already under a lot of scrutiny. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if Malachi Moore blew his knee out just to make sure that Mizzou doesn't score 7 points or even 3 points?
Right.
Could you imagine? Like, the university would put him on a week probation just because, like, hey, dude, there's things more important than zeros here.
Yeah, I feel like that would get him even more ridicule than Cristobal's little goof against Georgia Tech last year. Like 100%.
And deservedly so. We got number 22 SMU beating Duke in overtime 28-27. Once again, I did not watch this game, so
I saw a little bit of it and I kind of got the breakdown of it. So Duke actually had a chance to win in regulation at the end. They had I think it was like a 28-yard field goal to try to win in regulation, and SMU ended up blocking it. So they ended up going to overtime, which is obviously tough. It was in Durham. So Duke had everything going for them. SMU got the ball first, scored a touchdown on their first possession. Duke got it back, and they did score a touchdown, but instead of just going for one and going for a second overtime, they decided to go for two in the win, which I thought was the right decision.
I agree. That's the smart thing to do, Sun Belt Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It like that's what he should have done, and that's what Duke did. And you know what? Ultimately, it didn't end up working. They went for two, and really they should have got a DPI call on SMU, but it was not called. And
have they considered throwing trash on the field?
Was there anybody at the game to throw trash, though?
That's a fair point.
Has the ACC considered having refs that have a clue?
Has any conference done that this year?
I'm sure the MAC has. The MAC is the last beacon of truth.
Yeah, get on action.
Yeah.
That's why they put it on Tuesday, so all the other refs can watch and be like,
"Oh, you can do that. That's how that's supposed to work."
Is.
Yeah, but yeah, he should have. Billy should have, took a note. Should take notes from this if that, he has an opportunity in the future to try to win it in regulation or be aggressive to actually do it, because why not?
Yeah. Number 17 Boise beat UNLV 29-24 in Vegas. It did take a late fourth and goal touchdown by Ashton Genty. I found out I've been pronouncing his last name wrong. But yeah, no, Boise State is absolutely the best team in the group of five, but their defense is, should they make it to the playoff, their defense, they're not going to be able to use Ashton as much because their defense is going to give up a lot of points.
Yeah, I will ask the question though, guys. If, let's say, they run the table the rest of the way, which they probably will, and Army actually runs the table, including a win over Notre Dame, who you putting in that playoff between those two?
I think you would have to go Army in that situation, just because
of the undefeated record.
The undefeated record, a potential win over Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But to shock everyone here, Army schedule's been so easy this far.
Same thing with Navy. Navy got exposed by Notre Dame Saturday. We won't get into that, but they turned it over like 6 times. I'm afraid that Army's going to suffer a similar fate. Hopefully not, but we'll see.
I hope not too, man.
So I saw a strength of schedule graphic the other day, and I'm going to see if I can find it again. But Army was in like the 80s or 90s.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not great, but the good news about that is while it may be in the 80s or 90s, they've been beating the hell out of everybody
Yeah.
in
So
their
they got enough
on their
style
schedule.
points to make up for it.
Well, and arguably their schedule is easier too, being in the American versus being independent, like they
Mhm.
had been forever before that, because they would have to play like always like core four teams like consistently. So
All right, so
makes
Army's
sense.
strength of record is 23rd in the country.
Oh,
Well,
Their
because they're
strength-
undefeated, right? Yeah.
Yeah, their strength of schedule is 133rd.
oh my God! Out of 134.
Yep. But their remaining strength of schedule is 40th.
Probably almost exclusively due to Notre Dame. But
Right. Well, do they
But-
play Memphis? I don't
What was
know.
that?
So do they play Memphis? I mean, not that we're gonna get into it, but Notre Dame is Notre Dame probably makes most of that up.
Yeah, so I'm trying to pull up the Army schedule here. They have Air Force, North Texas, Notre Dame, UTSA, Navy.
Oh, okay.
Not even Memphis. Okay.
No, but North Texas is 5-3 on the season, and Navy is currently 6-1.
Yeah.
So they got some dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they manage to go through that undefeated or even with a close loss to Notre Dame, I think it would be, a legitimate conversation.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. This is I don't know if this is going to be tough for you to talk about or fun. I'm very confused by Michigan this year.
I'm not. They're not very good. They're not fun to watch. I mean, I don't have a good time. I don't enjoy it. I really didn't watch the first half of it because it was 7-0 with like 20 seconds left in the first half before Michigan threw a touchdown by a quarterback. So that was cool.
I did see, from what I saw of this game, which, to be clear, halftime highlights from other games that were fun. Alex Orji completed passes.
Were they further than like 5 yards from the line of scrimmage?
I have no idea.
Yeah, he. Well, Davis Warren started and threw a touchdown pass. Donovan Edwards threw a touchdown pass to I think Colson Loveland. Because he can't run the ball because he's not very good either. But
the cover athlete,
Alex Orji did not complete a pass or
he ran for a touchdown, which he can do, undoubtedly. But
have Donovan and Alex considered switching positions?
people are asking. They may. What would it hurt at this point?
Yeah.
Michigan plays Oregon next week in the Big House. So
rest in peace.
Yeah. Although I don't know. I don't know what the spread is, but Michigan might be able to keep it close just because of the defense, but not the offense. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, the reason why
is Oregon 14.5.
We'll
lay
see.
the points, guys.
The
Anyway,
over/under is 44.5, so they do not expect a lot of points there.
Under. Lock of the week of the century. No, but the reason why I brought up the game and is because there was a big fight at the end of it. Colson Loveland, Michigan was trying to kneel it out, and Colson Loveland and I don't know what defender it was for Michigan State. The Michigan State defender got a little bit aggressive. Colston headbutted him, and then just a big brawl broke out. I think one of Michigan's running backs like stomped out a Michigan State staffer and like a pile.
Bowlings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is the best running back on the team? He probably won't get suspended because you can't see him actually kicking him, but that's the allegation that was made. But this isn't uncommon. This happens pretty much every other year. So like every time they play at Michigan, there's usually a fight. 2 years ago, Michigan State got a couple players got I think assault charges put on them because they were kicking and stomping a Michigan player in the tunnel. Because they share one tunnel going to the locker rooms, so shit like that's gonna happen. But it's always really chippy in that series. But Michigan State won. Little brother stays doing little brother things like Loveland said in the post game. Which if you didn't see,
Michigan won.
Oh, what'd I say?
You said Michigan State, but
oh no, it felt like Michigan State won, but
they got a moral victory.
Yeah, but I had. I don't know. Little brother stays little brother. Shout out to Mike Hart. But yeah, that's it. That's probably the last time we talk about Michigan in a positive light the rest of the year.
Yeah. Guys, Auburn beat Kentucky.
They did.
They did.
And their kicker made kicks. Towns Magoo did not play in this game.
Magoo.
all-time name for a kicker.
Yeah.
But
is he like straight from like fucking 1890? Like,
I was gonna say that sounds like a fake name I would give to someone when I was making fun of them.
Okay, Towns Magoo.
Yeah, no, Towns Magoo is their kicker's backup kicker's real name. Their starting kicker Alex McPherson.
Also fake.
Also sounds fake, but he has been dealing with IBS so bad he has not been with the team up until this week.
Yikes. That seems to be going around because Hugh Freeze got it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's rough. But no, I'm trying to pull up where Towns Magoo is from.
I wonder how their long snapper Smitherson Withers is doing though.
His name, he is Towns Magoo, freshman from Auburn, Alabama.
Of course. Yeah, there you go.
Not even like he's
You just found the guy in the backyard kicking actual pigs and just hunting them. And they were like, this is our guy.
It's not even like he's from Scotland or Ireland or somewhere where you could rationalize, oh yeah, Towns is probably a common name there.
You're just hanging out down there in Opelika.
You heard about Towns Magoo?
This dude's idea of going to the big city is going to Columbus and avoiding getting shot. Like, what the hell? Towns fucking Magoo.
Golly.
All right. Shout out Towns, though, because I'm sure it was rough growing up with that fucking name.
Yeah, Towns Magoo. Man.
But, I mean, I think Auburn won like 24-10 or something like that, which...
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Kentucky at home, we knew they were only scoring like 10 to 13 points.
Yeah. But did y'all see Towns Magoo try to get a kickoff to end the half, and Auburn had 14 guys on the field.
14.
They
what do you understand?
They actually brought out all of their kickers, including punters, and they were like, somebody put it in the damn uprights because we hadn't done that shit this year.
Look, I just wanted to be on the field at the same time as Towns Magoo. I don't know what to tell you.
Freaking legend. If he doesn't lead like Auburn like NIL money, he should now.
Get a statue. Give him a statue.
I was in the same stadium as Towns Magoo a few weeks ago. So
nice.
And you're better for it, right?
Yeah. You're a better man. All right. So I did have, before we wrap up, just a quick discussion question to ponder. And the notes don't have all the details, so don't jump on anything yet. So let's assume Georgia finishes the regular season 11-1. You've got two choices. Either have them make the SEC championship, no guarantee that they win it, but you just know that they're getting there. Or they miss it, but they get the 5 seed, so they get the home playoff game against the 12 seed, who's probably a group of 5 team that they've got a pretty big talent advantage over. So not just the fact that they're not making this SEC championship, but they're guaranteed basically that first round matchup.
Oh, man.
All right, so I'll start it off here. To me, I need one more piece of information, and that's who would be the opponent in the SEC championship game.
Let's say Texas again.
I'd rather have a home playoff game. I think Texas has the talent and the coaches to make corrections. And if you're telling me as a season ticket holder I can get tickets to a home playoff game in Athens where they're either playing more than likely Boise State or Army, I absolutely.
That's really tough. Because if they got to the SEC championship and let's say they lost to Texas, they're probably going to be a 5 seed anyway.
Yes.
I don't know. At least one of the home game seeds for sure.
I love the idea of winning an SEC championship as much as it would be cool to have a home playoff game. Obviously, I don't go, so I don't really have a say in that, and it doesn't really impact me one way or another. I love games in Athens, obviously, but
look, dude, your kids have enough food to eat. Just spend the monthly grocery bill on a single ticket to go to the game.
I have some like construction and like traffic control like vest that I can just walk in. I'm sure nobody will stop me.
Yeah. My only thought, the thing that makes me lean also towards SEC championship game is if something happens, like if Jalen Walker sprains his ankle in an SEC championship game, but we still win, there's some time for that to heal and be ready for with a first round bye for a first playoff game. Whereas if that happens and we got to play again in a week in another elimination game, that's when I worry. But I also think that having either way, you're almost guaranteed a slot in the second round, so that almost doesn't make the thing for me. So it's just, do you put the experience of the home game over the risk of something happening in the SEC championship game? But I thought it was something to think about, because these are the questions now with this expanded playoff.
I just love the SEC championship. It's I mean, more often than not, it hasn't gone our way, but it's exciting. Everybody's watching.
Yeah, that 2022 season felt so much more valuable because we went in and won that SEC championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely difficult to win an SEC championship. So I value that quite a bit.
So when you're talking about injuries, my red flag pops up with the fact that Mercedes-Benz Stadium has artificial surface.
That's true.
And if you're saying like, oh, I get an extra game on grass that is better taken care of than Augusta National in Sanford, or I can send my guys to go play on AstroTurf on top of plywood against a very good team, what would you rather have? If you're talking specifically health-wise. Same amount of games, because SEC winner gets a bye week, So same amount of games, I would much rather have them a lesser risk of injury and playing on natural surface.
Yeah, and a more comfortable environment in general too. That's fair.
But if Georgia loses another game, I'm gonna have a crisis. So like, I don't want that either. I want to be happy going into the playoff.
I mean, they could go 11-1 and not make the SEC championship, depending on
that's true.
Else plays.
Yeah, that's true. I talked about those scenarios earlier. Yeah, there's plenty of them.
So, it's a
wild
season.
On how much you trust LSU to win out.
And we shouldn't, but yeah.
But how much do we trust Alabama to also win that game in Death Valley?
Yeah, that's true.
Couldn't win in Nashville.
Yeah.
Is Nashville a tougher place to play than Death Valley? People are
asking.
No, I'm trying to pull up to see if the game time has been announced yet.
That's going to make a big difference.
For
LSU and Bama.
It's 3:30 or 4:30 or 6 to 8. That's the same day. That's the same time slot that Ole Miss hosting Georgia is also slotted for them.
Earlier. Yeah. So one of those will get the afternoon, one of those will get the night, and we'll see.
Yeah, is also slotted for them.
Earlier. Yeah. So one of those will get the afternoon. They'll probably give the night to LSU and Alabama, just because Ole Miss has not been quite the dominant force folks were expecting.
Oh, they had an awful half against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
They were trailing at halftime for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Let's see what Ole Miss's rest of the season looks like.
Oh yeah,
they got Georgia and they got.
What's their record right now? Are they 5-2?
Yeah.
6-2.
6-2.
Yeah, their next game is Georgia. They play at Arkansas next week. So
that's not a guarantee. Actually,
I was about to say it may be 6-3, and they kick that down to a noon game. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finder podcast. As always, follow us on social media at nothing.finder.pod on Instagram, at FinderPod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up. You'll find us there. Share the show with your friends. Rate and review the show 5 stars. Help us out. But as always, remember, there's nothing finer in the land
than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.